Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So the Milan derby is now over and done with, and the way that football works at the moment is that we move very quickly on to the next fixture, which is this Saturday, and it's Liverpool against Bournemouth. So what I'm going to do in today's video is just basically predict the starting lineup. I'll predict some of the ways that I think Liverpool are going to play, and I'll also give a prediction on the scoreline. So without any further ado, I'll take us over to the tactics screen. And as you can see here, I've got a clear board where we're going to predict the team, but also I've just noticed that the monitor lights are very bright and lighting my face up like a Christmas tree. So there we go. So I'll be honest with you, when I was thinking about this game, I don't predict many changes from the starting lineup that faced AC Milan. I thought we would rotate the squad a bit more when we played against Nottingham Forest. And then I thought we'd probably see a couple of changes against Milan, but then we'd go with a stronger squad as possible against Bournemouth, as I do think they are a decent team, especially like in more recently. I think that they've actually turned into a really good squad. You know, they score a lot of goals. They look they're very attacking, very fluid kind of team. So I thought we'd need to go into this game with our best squad. But there is a change or two that I expect from the Milan game, and also a change or two that I expect from the game that started against Nottingham Forest as well. So I'm going to dive straight into it. And in goal, I think it's going to be Alisson. No surprises, no shocks, no changes there. And then likewise, I think we're going to see the Virgil and Kanate centre-back partnership. I think there is an argument for Kwanzaa to play in this one. I think that with their striker, Evan Nilsson, I don't think he poses the same kind of aerial prowess that we faced against other teams, such as against Nottingham Forest, where they had Chris Wood or maybe even Morata at AC Milan. But I think that the way that Kanate has been playing recently, I think that, he's looked as good as what we've expected and as good as what we've demanded from him in recent times. So I think to drop him now would be unfair on him with the level of performances that he's putting in at the moment. I thought it was brilliant against Milan. I thought it was brilliant in other games that he's featured as well, and he's really cemented himself as, the starting partner to Virgil van Dijk. Likewise, Trent, I don't see any reason to change him. I think that from a Liverpool point of view, losing against Nottingham Forest and then coming back and winning so comprehensively against Milan is very good from our part. But we also need to continue now and recover the form that we had in the Premier League. Obviously, teams now are going to work us out a bit more. They'll see the Nottingham Forest game. They'll make some changes to the way they play. I don't see that from Bournemouth. I think they are a very attacking team and they're going to try and have a very open game. It'll be quite free-flowing. They'll look to attack us and then we'll look to counter-attack them and so on and so forth. So for me, I think we're going to go with a stronger squad as possible, and that means that Robertson is going to return to the starting lineup over Tsimikas. Again, I don't think Tsimikas necessarily did anything wrong in the Milan game, apart from his shooting. I think that he was part of the problem that led to their opening goal of the game, but I think once that goal went in, he recovered well, and he ended up playing a good game. I thought he attacked very well. I think that he probably needed to make better decisions when it came to the final third, but ultimately I thought he had a good game. But I think resting Robertson against Milan was with the view to bringing him back against Bournemouth, and I think that his defensive qualities are going to be something that we'll probably end up needing. So yeah, I can definitely see us bringing Robertson back in for the game. Likewise, I see Gravenberch starting again. I don't see any particular reason to change him at the moment. I think there will be an argument about whether, like, the amount of games and how quick and how fast these games are coming, that he will need a rest at some point. But at the moment, he looks good. He looks fit. He looks fresh. He's probably been the standout performer across all games so far this season. So I don't see any need to change him and make any sort of like drastic decisions within like the midfield area. And that also includes bringing back in Alexis McAllister. I think that he's also been very good so far this season. I think that deeper role allows him to dictate the play of the games for us. So his passing, his control over the game, he's the one making decisions when we're going to speed it up, when we're going to slow it down, when we're going to look to keep the ball and pass it around, or are we going to try and spring forward as quickly as possible. And I think having that player in the centre of the pitch who is dictating the tempo, who is dictating the play, who is making sure that we keep control of the ball is vital for Liverpool. And likewise, following up from his performance against Milan, I think Szoboszlai will come back in. I thought against Milan, I put him down for man of the match. Again, I understand people that said it was Gakpo. I understand people that said it was Gravenberch. But for me, it was Szoboszlai. I think that was one of his best performances in a Liverpool shirt. And I think that that's the kind of performance that we've been asking for from him now for quite some time. I do think he's been good in other games this season. I thought he was one of the standouts in terms of his bad performance against Nottingham Forest. But the way he's bounced back against Milan, for me, means that, yeah, we'll just bring him straight back into the starting lineup. Likewise, I see no reason to change Salah on the right-hand side. I think the last two games from Salah have obviously been a drop in quality compared to what we used to. Obviously, not just talking about the fact that he hasn't scored, but also I think that the way that against Forest he was struggling to beat his man. Against Milan he found himself in some good areas but didn't really capitalise on them. So I think that, you know, he's having a little dip, but I think he will come back into it. And obviously with Salah's quality, you can't afford to leave him off. He is a difference maker in a game. And on a game where I'm thinking it's going to be two teams that like to attack, two teams that like to play free-flowing football, having that player that you know can create chances and finish chances with regularity is going to be important to us in this game. Likewise, Diogo Jota to come back into the starting lineup. I've said in the previous video, and I think it to a certain, I think it continuously, that Darwin, to me, he looks like a player who's struggling with confidence. I think when he came on against Milan, he was trying to shoot from every possible angle, every possible opportunity that he got in front of goal. Like he was just trying to shoot, when perhaps there were better options. Perhaps he could have taken a touch. Perhaps he, you know, shooting in that moment wasn't the right thing to do. But I think with Jota, you get a little bit more consistency, but also he does a role for Liverpool very similar to how Firmino worked, where he's not afraid to drop deep into little pockets of space around here. And as we saw against Milan, you know, he will also form part of this, you know, almost front four where he's not afraid to drop back a little bit and almost act as a false nine. And I also trust Jota's finishing over Darwin's at the moment. So I think, you know, it makes sense for me that he would continue that starting lineup. Again, same as Gravenberch. I think there will be a question at some point, you know, mainly given Jota's injury record in the past, as to whether Jota will need to have a break from the starting lineup at some point, or whether he'll be able to just continue with, you know, being able to play as many games as possible. Obviously, his injury record always gives a doubt, but hopefully that's not going to be a problem for him. And I do see him starting this game. And I think the only sort of change from the Forest game that we'll see, following on from his performance against Milan, I think Gakpo did enough, in my opinion, to earn a start in the team. Like I said before, I do feel that Slot probably fancied Gakpo to be the main player over on that left hand side from when he came in, but he wasn't ready to start playing football. He had a very, very short preseason. And then the start that Diaz made almost forced Slot's hand a little bit in saying, you know, Diaz was playing so well that he couldn't get Gakpo into the squad. I think then when he had the opportunity to rest Diaz and play Gakpo, the way Gakpo played against Milan, that's now also forced in his hand. You can't leave out a player who, in my opinion, like I said it in the last video that I'd done, like if you're a player and you want to see how you should react to being dropped, look at Gakpo's performance. He was hungry. He was aggressive in the way that he played. He almost had that anger inside him that he really wanted to do well, determined. And as I say, you know, with regards to Darwin, how I feel like he's shooting from all angles, Gakpo was making the right decisions at the right time, such as being able to set up Szoboszlai for his goal. You know, yes, he was having long-range shots, but I understand testing out a goalkeeper that's injured or testing out a new goalkeeper that's just been brought on. So for me, starting with Gakpo makes it makes a lot of sense. It makes all the sense, if anything. But yeah, that's my predicted starting lineup. But I can see one or two changes potentially based on some of the things that I noticed in the Milan game. So the first thing I noticed was Joe Gomez coming on for Trent. Obviously, when you're winning the game 3-1, Joe Gomez, in my opinion, is a better defensive player than Trent, but it doesn't offer you the same quality going forward. But the question would be, okay, well, why didn't he bring on Bradley? And that could have been to rest him to start Bradley in this game. So I can see possibility of Bradley starting this game over Trent, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Likewise, I wouldn't be surprised if Slot just reverts back to using Diaz in that front three and then putting Gakpo back on the bench. I do think it would be unlucky for Gakpo, and maybe Gakpo would have, a place to complain about that, given how well he played. But given how Diaz has started the season, I could understand him going back for, opting to put Diaz back into the squad. Personally, I wouldn't do that. Those are the only real changes. I could also see a world where he does give Tsimikas another chance instead of Robertson. I don't know why. I've got a feeling that Slot likes Tsimikas. Obviously, he played a lot in pre-season. I know that Robertson was injured, but I think Tsimikas offers a little bit more in terms of his technical ability than perhaps Robertson. I think whilst Robertson does do the running up and down the wings, he does that very well. I think defensively, he's probably a bit stronger. I think Robertson struggles a bit when it comes to, underlapping and coming on the inside. But at the same time, whilst I think Tsimikas does that role better and he is a little bit more technical when he's in these areas, Tsimikas' finishing ability or maybe his decision making in that final third might be something that just basically forces Slot's hand to play Robertson instead. I don't really envisage any more changes than that, to be honest. I think looking at the substitutes, so we'll go into that now. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, a lot of it all depends on the result and how the game's going. Assuming Liverpool are winning and the game looks quite comfortable, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chiesa come on for Salah again. I wouldn't be surprised to see Darwin get more minutes on the pitch, but I would like to see Darwin get more minutes. I don't want to see him basically getting 10, 15 minutes every game and just seeing him desperate to try and hit the back of the net to try and end his goalless run or to try and force himself into Slot's reckoning. I'd like to see him get a bit of an extended period of time in the game to let him grow into a game, let him feel his way into it, and let's see what he can do. But yeah, I expect to see Darwin will feature at some point for Jota. We'll leave him on the pitch, actually. And then likewise, if Diaz starts, I expect to see Gakpo come on, and vice versa. If Gakpo starts, I expect to see Diaz come on. So basically, there could be a change in the front three. Likewise, I would expect to see Curtis Jones to get more minutes into his legs as well in this game. And then, again, depending on the right back situation, if Trent does start, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bradley come on for him, or even Gomez, again, depending on the game, and if we wanted to basically get more control in the defensive side of things. I don't think we'll see Gomez in this game, but there's always a possibility, and again, Tsimikas for Robertson. So those are the changes that I'd expect to see, and that's the way that I think we'll play. I think we'll see a very similar game to the way that we played against Milan. It wouldn't surprise me to see Liverpool adopting that front four shape. Again, I'd expect to see Szoboszlai being the player who's controlling and organising the press. I think that he does that very well, and I think that when he's on form like he was against Milan, he was amazing. The amount of ground and the distance that he covered. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him take up that role again, but having that responsibility of controlling and covering this sort of midfield right-hand side area. I think, again, let's just put McAllister back on the pitch so we can actually see. I think McAllister would do the same role, operating in these spaces, not really venturing too far forward, but at the same time not playing as a defensive number 6. Same for Gravenberch, winning the ball around the pitch, driving it forward, being that player to carry the ball or pass the ball, depending on what the situation depends on. I'd expect to see that as well. And then likewise for Liverpool's back three, if we were playing Trent, I would 100% say that we would continue with this inverted role. So if Szoboszlai is pushing that bit further forward, we'll get Jota back on just so we see properly, and we'll also bring Salah back on. Yeah, if we're seeing Szoboszlai push a bit further forward, Trent coming inside as well, and then creating this 3-man midfield from a Liverpool point of view. But at the same time, if Trent was replaced by Bradley, I don't think Bradley does the inverted role so well, or so much, should I say. So I can see him adding that extra width on the right-hand side, which would then mean Szoboszlai could sit back into a midfield, Salah would come a bit further over, and then Bradley would be acting as more of a traditional sort of right wing back, getting forward, almost being a right midfielder at times. So that's how I see that playing. And the same for Robertson. So Robertson will be pushing forward. He'd still be looking for this underlap role. And then we'd kind of settle with this back two. So the team would kind of line up in a similar shape to this, where we're having Szoboszlai pushing a little bit further forward than McAllister and Gravenberch. Robertson coming and trying to make this underlap run. Bradley, I think he does the underlap very well. So if Salah is out wide, he'll come inside. Likewise, if Salah tucks inside, Bradley will go outside. And then Szoboszlai, at times, creating that sort of front four kind of shape. And Gravenberch being this holding player who will pick up the ball and then drive it further forward. That's how I think Liverpool will, the kind of shape Liverpool will play. I did like the different rotations that Liverpool done against Milan. So there were times when Tsimikas was sitting back a bit more and Liverpool creating this sort of back three shape. Again, with Trent tucking inside to create a midfield three with this whole front four. And I can see that happening again. I think this is something, if Liverpool are looking to try and wrestle control of the game against Bournemouth, we could look to adopt this shape again. And it wouldn't surprise me. But I think the way Liverpool attack, we like to build up with this back two, pushing the fullbacks higher up, and then, pulling Szoboszlai, Jota, players like this. Again, still think we'll create overloads. So Szoboszlai, let's put Trent back on. Szoboszlai, Trent, Salah, even Gravenberch creating, an overload on this right-hand side, and then still looking for that out ball. So if that happens, we'll start bringing players over, and then we'll keep the far-sided player as the out ball option. So I can see that happening. But likewise, on the left-hand side, you'll see Jota, McAllister, Robertson creating an overload over here with Szoboszlai and Salah getting into the box basically for when the ball goes in. So that's how I think Liverpool will line up. That's the shape I see Liverpool play, just based on the previous games that we've had and the way that we've lined up there. But now I'll go into my prediction. So yeah, I think the Milan game, it was very good that we obviously it was a very good result for obvious reasons. But the main thing that I took away from that game was Liverpool's ability to bounce back after a disappointment. Obviously, we had a disappointing game against Nottingham Forest, and we needed to bounce back in the right way. And I think the Milan game was us bouncing back in the right way. So I think it was very good. That being said, if I was to look at the Liverpool's opening fixtures minus, say, the Champions League, if we were going to keep that, that clean sheet record going, Bournemouth was the game that I saw that we would eventually concede a goal. And I do still think we are going to concede a goal in this game. I think the game being at Anfield gives us a big advantage, and I do think we're going to win, but I don't think it's going to be as easy or as comfortable as we think, so I'm going to go with a scoreline of 3-2. Obviously a high scoring game. I think at times it might even be a bit like a basketball game, is a phrase that we've heard quite a lot recently, with teams getting up and getting at each other, a lot of turnovers of possession, both teams probably wrestling and struggling to get control of the game. But ultimately, yeah, I think 3-2 is a scoreline that I will be happy to go with. Obviously, I've not really done very well on my predictions in the last couple of games. I pretty much got the squad right in the last game, bar Tsimikas. I thought Gakpo would come back in and we would go with quite a strong team. But I also predicted a 2-1 scoreline, and obviously the game finished 3-1, so I was wrong there as well. But yeah, that's my predicted starting lineup and the way we're going to play, and also the scoreline. But let me know in the comments, what do you think the scoreline will be? And do you think there'll be any changes to the squad from that are different to what I've predicted? If so, let me know down in the comments. Again, if you enjoy the video, drop a like. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the kind of content I'm putting out, and tick the little icon bell to be notified when I next upload. And of course, I will speak to you in the next one. Take care and goodbye.